Let me turn to Senator Welch.
Thank you very much. I want to thank the witnesses. And I'm just amazed at what you had to go through. I think it's devastating the Supreme Court stripped women of a constitutional right. I can't remember a court that has been so bad since the Dred Scott decision by Roger Taney. Roe allowed people to make their own decisions, and people have a different point of view on this. Dr. Scott, I take it that you are opposed to abortion.
Yes, it's a human life, and I support human life.
Right, and I respect your right to advocate for that position. But when we had Roe, that could be your position. But Ms. Miller, who had to make a real-world decision about her own life, and probably more importantly, your viable son, had a right to make her decision. And you laid out, when I was listening to your presentation, a point of view that the laws that have been passed in these states that are to your liking, I take it, don't cause doctors to hesitate, that don't create travel burdens on folks who are pregnant. That's certainly not the evidence that I'm familiar with. And I can only imagine what it was like for you, Ms. Miller, to be sitting here hearing that when your very recent life experience was totally the opposite. You couldn't even get basic medical information because providers you trusted and relied on felt they could be on the wrong side of the law. Is that pretty much it?
That's correct. And we would end up in these conversations where they were apologizing to us for not giving more information, and we were apologizing for even asking.
Right. You know, the other thing, Dr. Scope, that you mentioned was that there are a lot of services for folks who may have wanted to terminate a pregnancy but gave birth, and there'd be services for housing and so on. That's not my experience. And frankly, I have a somewhat cynical point of view about some of that advocacy because it's not real. And it's as though the folks who are promoting that are committed to providing protection from conception to birth. But after that, you're on your own. The state of Vermont is very proud of our medical center. And we're seeing, Vermont has not restricted the right to access to abortion. In fact, it has protected it in our Constitution, so women can make their own decision. But we're seeing in our own health center increasing applications. And what I'm told is that the reason for increasing medical applications is that physicians, or would-be physicians and nurses, do not feel that they will be hamstrung from being able to give the best advice to their patients. And I'll ask you, sir, if if that's consistent with the statistics that you found.
Yeah, I think that Yeah, absolutely. I think that in general, access to abortion care and finding providers that patients can access has always been very difficult in the U.S. And now in states, when there are states with bans, that access has gotten a lot worse. It's no surprise that providers want to practice in states where they can provide the best care possible. And patients on their side are forced to travel very far in order to access that care.
Right. And in Texas, you mentioned the bounties. I mean, they have a law where if they report that you got in your car and went across state lines to get an abortion, they get, what do they get?
I believe it's $10,000 that somebody could basically win for hunting us down. And that would be for my husband, really. So him helping me through the airport, him, helping me to find this information. My husband shouldn't go to jail for trying to save my life and make sure that there is still a mother to our son who was already present, our toddler, or that we could even bring our healthy, viable twin into the world.
Well, thank you very much. You know, my view here is that quite to the dismay, maybe even of the Supreme Court, by turning this back to the states, it created confusion, doubt, uncertainty, anxiety, and a lot of suffering, where we had under Roe the right of folks who were pro-life using their term, and pro-choice using another term. They could each make their own decision, but one side couldn't make the decision for the other. And it's, I think, a grievous miscarriage of justice by the United States Supreme Court that they overturned Roe. Thank you. I yield back.